Welcome to Collections of Cinema.
Hey everybody, we're back with a new episode of Mystery of Collections. Collections of
You were
Cinema.
about to say hello, I'm listening, weren't you?
No, we're back with a new episode of Collections of Cinema. It doesn't just, come naturally yet.
Really? I think it does.
No, it does not for me. And yeah, welcome to a new episode of our humble podcast. Humble. Again, my name's Woifi. This is Dani, my wife, the co-host to the main host.
You're the co-host to the main host.
And who is the main host?
Me.
No, you're the co-host to the
co-host.
Co-host.
I like cocoa.
Co-host. We're back with a new episode. Just to remind you guys, please like, subscribe, and rate the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you can rate the podcast, Amazon Music.
Yep.
And please even if you don't like it, please. It helps us a lot. It doesn't cost you anything, but it will help us a lot.
And feel free to send us any feedback, whether in the comments or a message on Instagram or Threads, or can you message on Threads? I don't know my way around Threads.
You can message directly via Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just with suggestions or feedback, things you like, things you don't like, because we said we're not new to the podcast game, but we're new to this style of podcast.
Especially with video and stuff.
Yeah. So we want your feedback.
So, just to remind you, you pick the number of the movies. So the movies are alphabetically ordered.
Yes.
And by the number, you choose a movie. So every week or every other week, we ask on Instagram or Threads to give us a number. And based on that number, we then pull a movie. And last week's poll was American Pie.
Which is number?
I don't know right now.
44?
Is it 44? I don't know. I usually write it down, but I did not this time.
I have it written down, but I do know it was submitted by @Frank Mendoza 1974.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you for submitting.
Yeah. So American Pie. American Pie is a staple in coming-of-age teen sex comedy.
Yeah, totally.
1999. The movie originally was titled
44. Sorry, just double.
Untitled teenage sex comedy that can be made for under 10 million. That most readers will probably hate, but I think you will love. And surprisingly, that movie had a budget of around 10 to 11 million estimate and grossed 235.5 million worldwide,
so
which is
crazy.
Fucking nuts.
That is really nuts.
It's fucking
I feel like especially
nuts.
not just especially for the time, like in the 90s. I mean, there were other big films that were close to it that year, like Big Daddy was another one that was really close to making that. But the fact that the budget was 11 million and it made that much money, it's insane.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Paul Weiss directed the movie. He's the brother of Chris Weiss. And he also did notably About a Boy. I think that was like his most successful movie in 2002.
Okay, I don't know that one.
He did the third Fockers movie, Little Fockers, being Flynn, American Dreams, Fatherhood on Netflix. I think Moving On was also on Netflix with Tomlin and Fonda.
The cast alone, I feel like in this movie is so fantastic, and maybe at the time not so well known, but obviously now.
No, obviously the American Pie was their breakout.
But
all
like Jason Biggs is pretty massive now. Allison Hannigan, Natasha Lyonne, Tara Reid,
Sean William
was
Scott.
like really massive in that time.
Sean William Scott,
Eugene Levy.
I mean, Eugene Levy was known.
Jennifer Coolidge. Come on, Jennifer Coolidge.
Eugene Levy was known, especially on their older semesters, but Eugene Levy was then known
by the younger generation.
Which is interesting because he's a staple in comedy. I mean, Eugene Levy is one of the funniest people.
I would say the same for Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah, obviously Jennifer Coolidge. Those two were like the old school cast, the veterans in the cast of the movie, and everybody else was a breakthrough, and they basically became famous from one night to the other with that movie. Interestingly, that movie what began basically the teen sex comedy hype in the early 2000s. So that movie kind of started all those coming of age teen sex comedy movies that followed, and showed that R-rated comedies are something to make money with, which proves the crossing.
But it was originally, from what I read, it was originally rated NC-17.
Yeah.
And then they changed it to an R rating, or they made it an R rating.
This version we have here right now is the unrated version. So and it's one scene actually.
It's really only one scene.
It's one scene. It's the scene where he fucks the pie laying down on the table. And the rated version is he's standing and holding it in front of him.
Interesting.
That's the only.
Why? But why would that make it? I almost feel like the version where he's laying down on top of it is less.
Nah, because
graphic.
if you compare those two versions, the version where he fucks it really, where he's laying down and thrusts it, it's way more explicit. Okay, let's talk about the plot of the movie. It's a simple plot of the movie. If you have not seen it, watch the movie. It's
a bunch of high schoolers and they're graduating. Yeah. And the guys this group of guys has a pact to all lose their virginity before they leave high school. Yeah. That's essentially the plot of the movie.
So basically the last date of that would be the prom. The prom ball or the party of the prom. And so that is the pact. So they try to score dates for the prom and then get laid. Essentially, that's the whole thing.
We talked about this a little bit, but I feel like movies like this can't be made today, at least in the way that this one is made. It can't be. They can still be made like I want to get laid or whatever. Yeah, but even that is so. I don't know if
the thing is
that topic would really be so big anymore.
I think I think a movie like that could totally be made, and I think there are some movies that are similar to.
But I feel like not quite as. I mean, there are some things that would be considered very offensive today.
Yes, but I think they were also considered offensive back then. And when the movie came out, I mean, a lot of people were upset by the profanity and but
it's very raunchy. It's a very raunchy
right. But at the same time, I think they just explored something that people kind of craved, or at least the audience wanted to see. Yeah. And I think that's the difference compared to today, where I think people seen those movies, and those movies can only be exploited and explored up to a certain point. I mean, you see it with the later or the latest American Pie movie, where it's kind of still funny, but it's all also the same kind of. And at some point, you were just fed up with all that stuff that you can actually make out of those movies. So I think that's the main reason why people, or why movies like that don't get made right now like that anymore, because it would be just the same. It would be just a copy of something that is already there. I guess that's my opinion, that whole thing. Because watching it, there is not much where I'm like, oh no, you could not do that today. Honestly, I've seen worse in recent comedies.
I would agree. There's only one scene that I feel like you really couldn't do today, and that's or at least just one part of a scene, so it's not the full scene, but I love that scene where Nadia comes over. So Nadia's like a foreign exchange.
Oh yeah, we should explore that scene in general.
So Jim, who's Jason Biggs, he's basically the main character. Yeah, he they're all virgins. Yeah. And he so desperately wants to get laid, but he's really bad at talking to women, and he freezes up, and he's just very awkward. And this foreign exchange, I don't know if she's a foreign exchange student or if she
is from the Czech Republic. Yeah.
And she takes an interest in Jim, and he's like, I can help you with, I think it's like a tutoring thing. I can come over and I can help you. And so she comes over after her dance class and wants to change in his room. And so he's like, oh, you can change here. It's fine. And he, with his friends, set up, he's going to put his webcam on. And when she changes, he leaves. Yeah. And it would then stream just to like his friends, basically. Yeah. But it ultimately, he did it wrong, and it streamed everywhere, so anybody could watch it. Yeah. The only thing about that scene that is like, that couldn't really be done today is the fact that it was filmed like it's unconsensual. So it's.
But still, that could be.
Yeah, but they make it funny, and I feel like.
Right. I think it would be.
And she didn't care.
I think it would. The thing is, we don't see her reaction because she, like in the plot, she gets sent back to the Czech Republic, so she doesn't really know. And in the second part, they don't really talk about it.
That's true.
So I think you could make it where there would be some repercussions or something where you need to explain that something like that is not okay.
But the funny thing about that scene that I also mentioned last night was the fact that he turns on the camera, she comes in his room, she's about to change, and he bolts out of the house and runs as fast as he can to his friend's house down this, like, it's probably
a few blocks
away. Bolts to his friend's house so he can watch the stream. And I'm like, this is perfect. It fits that age so well. It fits, like, I feel like that's how a young boy's brain really works.
That scene alone shows the zeitgeist of the time because the internet is so new and the camera is like, I don't know, a couple of pixels off resolution. It's really bad quality. And you see it in a couple of shots where it's like super. And it's basically, they took the technology that they had. They didn't fake anything. So they took the technology they had and they ran with it, which is fucking amazing because it just shows how bad it was back then. And they were so excited. They're sitting in front of the computer screen, which already is shitty enough. And then this small little window where you can see the live stream, and they drink beer and you can barely make out anything. And it's
and every time she like takes something off, they're like, "Oh, there that goes."
Yeah, it's really funny.
So funny.
And of course, he on accident sent the link to the whole school, so everybody sees it, and he fucks them up and comes twice prematurely.
So he then goes back. And like, because all his friends were like, you have to go back and ask her if she needs help because she ends up like reading a dirty magazine naked on his bed, and like touching herself to it. And so he runs back to ask her if she needs help. And she almost leaves, but then is like, yeah, well, you've seen me, now I want to see you. And so he does this whole like strip dance thing. And it's so fucking funny. That is one of my all-time favorite scenes of all of the American Pie movies. His dance is so beautifully awkward and like, it's so well done. It's just, everything is so funny.
That is funny.
It's a great scene.
The pie scene, we should also talk about. I think that's just like the most infamous scene of the movie because it kind of became this. First of all, Jason Biggs was known for that such a long time, and he even played it off in other movies where he played himself like, oh yeah, I'm the guy who fucked the pie. And that became kind of his like Harry Potter trait where everybody just knew him for, oh, that's the guy from American Pie who fucked the pie and stuff. So the scene itself is not that significant.
It's a really short scene.
And the only reason, it's like because he's like, what does third base feel like? And one guy,
but it's like, also very much. I feel like the movie does such a good job of like, this is how a teenage boy's brain works. It's so accurate. But and it's like they will literally put their penis in anything. Like, just to like get some sort of feeling.
Yeah, like J.D. Vance fucking the couch. No, but basically he get told that fucking a pie feels like third base. And of course he comes home and there's this fresh baked pie on the counter which says like with a note from his mom, enjoy Jim. And then the porn music starts already.
And then he like doesn't he like put his finger in it a little bit just to like see.
And he's like, oh yeah, and then cut to he's fucking the pie.
So
and the
funny.
best thing about the scene is Eugene Levy's Jim's dad comes in, and Jim is like, oh Dad, it's not what it looks like. And then cut to the pie's all mangled up and destroyed, and Eugene Levy is like, we just tell your mother we ate it all. It's just so funny.
It's so funny. And I love all of any conversation that Eugene Levy has with Jim is just gold. Yeah. Because he's also very awkward and he does a very good job at like trying to play the cool dad, but making his kid feel so uncomfortable.
I mean, he's neurotic. He is overprotective, but he's also over-involved. Yeah. Jim is looking at Jim is coming out of his room and Jim's dad is looking at the pictures in the hallway and he's like, I was just looking at the photos of the hallway, and Jim just stands next to him and looks at the pictures, and then all of a sudden he just says, let's talk about masturbation. Because of the pie incident. And it's just, so fucking funny, the way he delivers lines and the way he just acts around Jim. It's really funny. The movie was filmed in Southern California, most of it, even though it's set in. Is it
East Coast that it's supposed to be set on? I feel like it's supposed
Michigan.
to be East Coast.
Lake Michigan.
Michigan. Okay.
Michigan, yeah. Great Falls. That's what the.
Okay.
And it was interestingly the neighborhood is also been used in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Donnie Darko. So there are some similarities. If you feel like, I've seen this neighborhood before, yeah, you have seen it. Right. So
some of the other characters, maybe let's talk.
I mean, Stifler, I think, is the other one that kind of stands out of the whole bunch because
Stifler's great.
Stifler was supposed to be a smaller role, like a way smaller role.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they, I don't know if they found out during filming, but they figured out, okay, this character can be explored more. And I think also because of Sean William Scott's portrayal of the character, where it's just this goofy, kind of stupid, but also kind of lovable, sexist dude who acts like he knows shit. But at the same time, I think it's a very relatable character because I think it mashes together people that are like you can relate to or people you maybe know from your high school or like it's I
feel like every class has a Stifler.
Right. It's the funny guy who cracks jokes the whole time, who is insecure but puts his insecurity towards others, who makes them, who pranks people, who throws parties that are known for being so badass, but at the same time he's kind of a loser, but he plays it off super well. Yeah. And Sean William Scott does a great job with that. And I think with American Pie, the first one already, it starts where he gets his, like at some point in the movie, he gets pranked pretty bad, which is always either, it's a gross joke most of the time. And in the first one, he goes up, like at a party, he goes up in his room and there's the spear standing still on the table, and we saw that one of the other characters ejaculated in it into the cup and put it on the nightstand, and so he takes a sip of it and takes another sip. I think he takes 2 sips. I don't know.
I don't remember.
But then he starts puking. Yeah.
So gross.
So yeah.
I think though, next to Jim, my favorite character is Finch.
I mean, Finch is funny.
I really love Finch.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the innocent, nerdy.
Yeah.
He's more of the nerd of the group, I would say, or like the know-it-all. He's very well-spoken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he is the one who famously has a relationship with Stifler's mom. So he loses his virginity to Stifler's mom.
Yeah.
And it's that scene at the party, at the house party, when he meets her, it's just like, that's one of the most hilarious scenes.
Yeah.
Just like the introduction of Stifler's mom, first of all, Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah. And
he just acts like this super sophisticated man.
Yeah.
And there was the one line where she offered him, she's like, he's like, I want a drink or something, and she's like, the kegs are upstairs, and he's like, no, not beer, I want a real drink, like liqueur, or whatever he said, and like liqueur, and she was like, I have an 18-year-old aged Scotch or something, and she's like, that's my favorite age.
Also, MILF, Mom I'd Love to Fuck, was basically used in that scene regarding to Stifler's mom.
Did you ever look up if that was?
No, I just read it. I mean, It was already a thing, but the movie helped to popularize it and basically put it into everybody's mind. So after that movie, everybody knew what a MILF was. And also, I mean, American Pie is the most iconic teen movie or series in that sense, and it's basically, I think it's already $1 billion series, movie series, and a lot of other similar comedies spawned off of that success. And also, I mean, the spoof comedy Not Another Teen Movie from 2001 is also something that should be noted. It's very funny if you have not seen it, and if you've seen some of the romantic comedies, teen comedies in that era, you should also totally watch Not Another Teen Movie. It's fucking hilarious.
What is the Cheer one? That was also early 2000s, wasn't it? With Justin Long.
The Cheer one. What do you mean?
Cheerleader camp thing. Is that Justin Long?
Oh, you mean no, that was 2011, I think. Where the Fired Up, yeah.
That's a fun one too.
Where the football players go to cheer camp. It's Fired Up. 2009, I'm sorry. It's Fired Up.
So that's still in the 2000s.
Yeah. But that movie also basically counts in that.
That's another that one I really like too.
Yeah.
I think that's quite funny.
But yeah, I mean, Sean William Scott then also got like Road Trip, Dude, Where's My Car, Evolution.
Dude, Where's My Car?
He got a supporting role in the horror movie Final Destination, in which he gets killed very funnily. Yeah.
I love Dude, Where's My Car? That stupid scene where they get the tattoos.
Yeah.
What's mine say? Dude! What's mine say? Sweet! Yeah, okay, but what's mine say? Dude!
And they get gradually angrier. It's so funny.
Pissed.
What I also want to point out in American Pie, the soundtrack is super sweet.
Yeah, and in all of them, I feel like all of the American Pie movies have a really solid soundtrack. And they fit perfectly with the time.
It's Blink-182, Third Eye Blind, Sugar Ray. It's like all of those. Like,
but it's those classic late 90s, early 2000s movies where they just literally pick all the bangers of that
Mrs.
time.
Robinson in place when Finch seduces Stifler's mom.
Fantastic.
There's so many good music choices in the movie, and the second one as well, and the third one. They do a really good job, and also capturing the zeitgeist of the time, where okay, those are the songs that people listen to, and then I mean, in the example with Simon and Garfunkel, Mrs. Robinson, this is a song that completely is taken out of that era, but at the same time references another movie with The Graduate, which also kind of.
And they play off in that scene.
They play off of that movie.
It's not just the song, but in the scene they actually like make not so subtle hints towards that movie.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. It's a really solid soundtrack. Yeah, and it kind of encapsulates the time of that era a little bit with the soundtrack. I think it's
I also really love Natasha Lyonne's character.
Yeah. She's cool.
You all probably know her best from Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, that's
most people know her best from that.
Yeah.
But I think that her character was pretty ahead of its time, I would say, because she wasn't like your typical female role in a teen movie. She was very much so like kind of one of the guys, put it that way. Yeah. But I feel like that was very untypical for that time to have a female role where it's not super feminine.
No, she's not.
Like she wasn't put into a box.
I mean, back in time, you could assume that she's bisexual or lesbian.
Yeah.
But I think it's never really mentioned, and I think they make at least suggestions that she's not, that she's hetero or at least had sexual relations with men. Just some fun fact, Jim's role was originally supposed to be Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
And Bill Murray was supposed to be Eugene Levy, Jim's dad. Completely different movie.
That's a different movie.
Like Bill Murray in the role, I can see it, but at the same time, I can't.
I can see it, but knowing how Eugene Levy does it would not be that, at least. It would be a Bill Murray version of that, obviously, but it would not be... He made that character really come to life. And Jonathan Taylor Thomas, I could never see him in a role like that.
Yeah.
How bizarre. I mean, he was massive at that time, so I understand. Yeah. But I am so glad that they didn't choose him to do that. Or that he turned it down whatever way that went. But
I mean, sure. Just some fun facts to the movie series itself. The movies, there are 4 cinema movies or 4 theater movies: American Pie 2, 2001, American Wedding 2003, and then American Reunion in 2012. Which each did super well. They did amazingly well, all of them in the box office, even though like the critical ratings are not like that great. But in that series, it doesn't really matter. Like the ratings of people were still pretty high. And then there were home releases, which was American Pie, Bandcamp, The Naked Mile, Better House, The Book of Love, and Girls Rules. That was the latest one in 2020.
But those ones didn't have the original cast.
No,
right?
Eugene Levy, I think, was in 3 of them.
Okay, but the other characters,
no, just references. I mean, Stifler's brother, who was introduced in the main series, was part of the other ones. Yeah. And for now, I mean, they talked about making another one, and I honestly would love to see another one too. Simply because I liked the last one, American Reunion in 2012, where you could see, okay, those are the characters now. They had kids and regular lives.
But how they still kind of kept up with their they didn't totally change their personalities, which I really liked.
So I would totally love to see another installation of that series, simply because I love the characters. And I guess it's a nostalgia thing. It's not something like, if you would watch them now completely new without having seen them ever, I don't know if you would like them as much. I don't know that the
humor would, but that's what I meant with making them today would be so difficult, because like you said, if you watched that movie, the first one, today for the very first time, I feel like it wouldn't be accepted as much.
Some of them I think would, most of it would, I think, but I think the main appeal to the whole series is the nostalgia, okay, I have watched them growing up. I've been, that age while I watched this movie.
But at the same time, I will say I didn't see the American Pie movies until you and I watched them.
You've never seen them before?
We watched them in Vienna. Do you remember when I came?
Yeah. That was in 2016.
Was it when I came to visit, or was it when I had to go back
before you
home?
left home? Yeah, I think before you left, before you came back in 2017, so 2016.
Yeah.
You've never seen them before that?
I had never seen them before that.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think I had maybe seen the first one, but I couldn't remember. So I otherwise had never seen the movies, and I love them. So it might just be it might just be like, it has to be your type of humor, and if you don't.
But at the same time, you also grew up around that time with that music, and also.
And I still grew up with other similar style comedies and movies. Yeah. So
I think it's from my perspective, I think it's at least the 4 main releases are classic comedies.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're raunchy. They're a little dirty and a little offensive. But I think I think that kind of makes the whole vibe of the series. And I think it's honestly something that everybody should see at some point.
I agree. I think they're
at least if you can
hysterical.
Deal with humor like that. If you don't like humor like that at all, if you're a prude, then don't watch it. I mean, some people are prude.
Yeah, that's fine.
I know. I'm not judging. I'm just it's fact. It's a fact. Okay. Do you have anything else? Otherwise, we would go on to movie of the week.
I don't think I have anything else.
Let's go on to movie of the week.
Movie of the week.
Okay, we watched not a lot of movies. I watched a lot of movies.
You
but
watched
you
a
didn't.
lot of movies.
We watched Synecdoche, New York, Twisters, the new one, then The Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, Fly Me to the Moon, The Prestige, American Pie, and and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Movie of the week.
Movie of the week. I think I have a favorite.
What was your favorite?
I think it's Synecdoche, New York, from 2008.
And why was that your favorite?
I've never seen it before, so it's fresh. And I don't know, I really loved it's Charlie Kaufman, and I loved the gradual craziness and surreality of the movie. I wouldn't
even say gradual.
It is kind of gradual because it starts a little bit normal until all of a sudden it's not anymore.
Yes, but at the same time, it only feels, to me at least, it only feels like it starts slow,
No, I'm not saying slow.
No. But gradual. You say gradual. You can say you slowly build up to something.
The surreality. I mean, the surreality.
I know. I know that's what you mean.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in that sense, it feels like it starts slower and then builds. But I feel like if you were to watch it again, you would see how insane it is from the start.
I think that's my main appeal, because that movie is something that you need to watch again. You watch it the first time and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Mm-hmm. But then you don't really. And at the end, you're like, okay, wait, I need to go back and watch it again because I've missed so much.
Yeah.
So many subtle hints in the whole thing. And all of a sudden, those weird realities kind of merge.
Yeah, because there are moments when you start watching it where you're like, okay, when is this happening?
Yeah.
Like, is this a flashback? Is this happening now? Is this in the future? Like, you're kind of confused on the timeline of everything.
Yeah, and then also the real life in the movie gets mixed with the set life of the movie, which then also becomes
a set. It's like
a real
Inception.
It's super weird. Like, it's Inception. That's true. It's Inception in terms of a narrative format of theater in the movie.
Yeah,
it's fucking nuts.
It's like this thing is happening in real life, and then this thing is happening on the stage to portray what's happening in the real life, and then this thing that's happening on the stage is also happening on the stage. It's so weird.
So, what would your?
I would agree, actually. I
mean, I think the thing is, I love The Prestige, Christopher Nolan.
Yes, that was also
fucking phenomenal movie. But then also Fly Me to the Moon was great. It was a great rom-com, and I really enjoyed it.
I think it's hard to pick a movie of the week. I mean, I would agree that was maybe my favorite, just because it was so weird and so bizarre, and so your attention was grabbed the entire time watching it, because you're just trying to figure out what's happening, but not in a way where you're getting frustrated watching it. It's true. Really well done. But I also very much enjoyed The Prestige.
Yeah, Prestige is
very much enjoyed.
It's a great movie. Christopher Nolan, 2006, after he did Batman Begins, he directed that one, and
with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale and Scarlett Johansson. It's very well done, kind of like a magic based but thriller movie where you're figuring it's kind of like a whodunit.
It is a little bit.
It has very much whodunit aspects to it,
but
which I really love. At the same time,
it's written as a magic trick, kind of.
Yes.
Where you get distracted by certain things that you don't notice at first.
And there are subtle hints throughout the entire movie of what happened. Yeah. And it's still kind of like blows your mind to the end. It's very, very well done. Yeah. And I very much liked it.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
That's it, everybody.
That's it.
So, next week's movie, you picked it already. Did you post the video?
No, because this episode's not out yet.
Oh yeah, that's true. So the thing is, again, what we do is we post something on our Instagram and Threads. So please follow us there.
Yes.
And then you can be part of it. So we ask like, hey, please give us a number between
1 and 1,050.
Yeah. And at some point we will also do it like, hey, give us a number between 500 and something, because we want to, right now.
But this time we did get a lot in the 700s, 300. Yeah. And so we got about 6 or 7 different numbers. Yeah. And so what I did, and I was originally just going to put them all in a poll and say, pick one. But then I feel like everybody would just pick their own number. Yeah. So I just decided I'm going to put them all in a little bowl.
Jar. Yeah.
And do it that way and just pick at random. And so I will also post a video on that for those who maybe don't listen to this episode. The number that was selected was number 23, which is A Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010.
Which we watched already, yeah.
And that was submitted by Casey. So thank you, Casey.
Thank you for that. Again, if you like what you hear, if you don't like what you hear, like the podcast. It helps us a lot. Go to our YouTube, subscribe there. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to a podcast. We have a video version. You can see that on YouTube and on Spotify. Again, the video version is still like one camera, but we want to expand that in the future if there is enough response. Feedback, so the idea would be 2 cameras, one of me, one on you, and then a wide shot that we have right now. Rate the podcast. and give us some feedback. If you have any ideas for segments that we could do, we would love to hear that. And if you have not seen American Pie, then please watch it. It's a fun movie series.
It is very fun.
I think it's on Netflix.
And if you want to watch Nightmare on Elm Street beforehand, it's the 2010 version once again, and you can watch it before we release the next one.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Good boy.
Goodbye.